This is the Chapter 3 review. This particular video will have everything covered. We covered some of this in class, so I will probably make a video that just cuts in and covers the things that we didn't cover in class. But if you weren't in class, here's the whole thing. Remember to study your flashcards. And on number 6, we are solving equations. And so with my x is multiplied by 5 and then a subtracting 8. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides. 12 and 8 are both positive, so they add together. And we keep the sign. Divide by 5, and we get x equals 4. Number 7, we add 3 to both sides. The 18 and 3 are both positive, so again they add together. Divide by 7, we get t equals 3. In number 8, we're going to add 4 to both sides. This is the first time we have anything where when we add, we have a positive 4 and a negative 3. So the signs are different. So we find the difference and keep the sign of the larger. C over 5 is divided by 5. The opposite of dividing is multiplication. And that will give me C equals 5. Moving on down. Number 9, we're going to add 5 to both sides. We have negative 2q. On the left-hand side, we have a negative 11 and a positive 5. The signs are different, so we find the difference and keep the sign of the larger. When we divide by negative 2, negative divided by a negative is a positive, so we end up with q equals 3. On this one, subtracting 8 from both sides, again, we have a negative and a positive over on the right-hand side. We have a positive 2 and a negative 8, so we find the difference and keep the sign of the larger one. Divide by negative 3, and we get m equals 2. Subtract 9 from both sides. 11y equals 121. Divide by 11. Y would be 11. On to here. We're going to subtract 576 from both sides. And we have negative n equals, so we have a negative 576 and a positive 314. So I need to find the difference. 262, and keep the sign of the larger, which is a negative. Well, that negative in there is a negative 1 in front of it. There's a 1 sitting there, so we can divide both sides by negative 1, and we get n, that was messy, n equals 262. On this one, adding 1 to both sides, you get negative 1/4 w equals 7. I'm going to multiply by negative 4 because that would make that become a 1, because negative times a negative would be a positive, and then 4 times 1/4 would be 1. And we are going to end up with negative 28. On number 15, we add 4 to both sides. 3h equals 9. Divide by 3. H equals 3. On number 16 here, this is the first one where we have some stuff that we need to combine on the left-hand side. So 1b plus 4b would be 5b equals negative 90. And then we would divide by 5. And 90 divided by 5, it'll go in once. With 4 left over, bring down that 0, so it would be 18. So we end up with b equals negative 18 because the 90 was negative and the 5 was positive. Negative 1x plus 7x is 6x. Combining like terms first. Divide by 6. We get x equals 4. On this one, we need to use that distributive property. So 2 times t is 2t and 2 times 5 is 10. Subtract 10 from both sides. So we have a positive 9 and a negative 10. So we find the difference, which is 1, and keep the sign of the larger. And then divide both sides by 2. And we get t equals negative 1/2. 19. The first thing we need to do is, this is a negative 1 here. So we need to change the signs of everything inside there. So negative 3 plus 10y equals 12. Add 3 to both sides. We get 10y equals 15. Divide by 10. And we get y equals 15 over 10, which is 1.5. Move that decimal 1 to the left when you divide by 10. So we get y equals 1.5. Or 3 over 2. Same thing happens here. Got to multiply through with that negative 1. This x is not affected. It's still just sitting there. So x minus 4, and then negative 1 times negative x would be plus x. So we get 2x minus 4 equals 0. 2x, I need to show that step. I was doing it in my head. Add 4 to both sides. 2x equals 4. Divide by 2. X equals 2. On number 21, positive 4, negative 6 means I have a negative 2n over here equals 2n. So subtract 2n from both sides. You would get 0 equals negative 4n. Divide by negative 4. 0 divided by anything is 0. So we get n equals 0. On number 24, we have a fraction. 4 and 2, our common denominator is going to be 8. So I'm going to multiply this by 8, this by 8, and this by 8. And then looking to see what will reduce, 4 will go into 8 2 times, and 2 will go into 8 4 times. So now that I have that, 3y times 2 would be 6y, minus 4 times y would be 4y, and then 8 times 5 is 40. So 6y minus 4y is 2y. Divide by 2, and we get y equals 20. On this one, I have 2 decimal places, 2 decimal places, 2 decimal places. You want to multiply by however many decimal places. So I need to multiply by 100 because that will move my decimal 2 to the right. You need to pick the maximum number of decimal places. So 0.36 times 100, move the decimal 2 to the right, it becomes 36p. 0.26 becomes 26, and 3.86 becomes 386. So subtract 26 from both sides. We get 36p equals 0.63. Divide by 36. And we get p equals 10. And then I did a couple more because I really didn't do enough to review that fractional stuff. So 3 and 5, I need to multiply by 15. Everything by 15. So I'm going to show my reduction and then come back and do the multiplication. 3 will go into 15 5 times. 3 will go into 15 5 times, and 5 will go into 15 3 times. Now, doing the multiplying what's left. 5 times x is 5x. So that's what I get in my first position. In the second position, I have a 5 and then the 2 that was in the numerator. So 5 times 2 is 10 equals, and then I have the 3 from the reduced 15 times x would be 3x. So I have 2x minus 10 equals 0. I subtracted 3x from both sides. 2x equals 10 after adding 10 to both sides, and I get x equals 5. On this one, I have 1 decimal place, none, and 1. So we're going to go with 1 decimal place, which means I would need to multiply it by 10, which will move the decimal place 1 to the right on everything. So that 30 is going to become 300. And I left that decimal in. Move the decimal 1 to the right. Subtract 300. And you get 12x equals 1404. Divide by 12. It will go in one time. And I don't need to bring down that 4 yet. I just need to bring down the 0. It will go in one time. 84, and that would be 7. 7 times 12 is 84. So I get x equals 117. Here, 3 and 6, so my common denominator is 6. So again, showing the reducing, 3 will go into 6 2 times, 6 will go into 6 1 time. So I have 2 times 2x would be 4x equals 1 times x would just be x, and 2 times 6 would be 12. Subtract x from both sides. You get 3x equals 12. Divide by 3. X equals 4. Number 12 on page 191 says a state park charges an admission of $6 per person plus a $3 parking fee. Joe paid $27 for her car to enter the park. Write, solve an equation to find the number of people in her car. So the thing we're missing is the number of people in the car. So she paid $6 per person. So 6 times P. You don't have to put the dollar sign there. Plus a blanket rate of $3 for the car. And she had a total of $27. So subtract 3 from both sides. Kind of an ugly 3 there. And we get 6p equals 24. Divide by 6. She had 4 people in the car total. And then on page 194, number 8 says the rate to rent a certain truck is $55 per day plus 20 cents per mile. Your family pays $80 to rent a truck for 1 day. So you know you've paid $55. You don't know because it says how many miles did you go. So let's let M equal the number of miles. And you paid 20 cents per mile. And it says that you paid $80 for that day. So I'm going to subtract 55 from both sides. And I get 0.2 M. You'll notice I dropped that 0 equals 25. You can, at this point, if you want to, multiply both sides by 10 and get 2M equals 250. Or you can do this. Just keep the decimal in there, and then when you go to do the division, you have 2 into 250, and that would be 125. That was how many miles that they traveled. 27 in the chapter review was going from 2.5 miles per minute, and I'm going to write it like this. And I want to go to miles per hour. So I've already got miles in the top, which is what I want to go to. So the only thing I need to change is my minutes to hours. So if minutes is down here, it's got to go up here in order to cancel mathematically, because numerators and denominators of fractions can cancel. So from minutes, I can go to hours. There's 60 minutes in 1 hour. So minutes is gone, and I have 60 times 2.5. That's essentially um, a fraction there. And so you're multiplying the numerators of your fractions together. 0, 30, carry the 3, 12 and 3 is 15. You need one decimal place. So we end up with 150 miles per hour. And then number 23 is on the chapter review page. It was 7 gallons per week to quarts per hour. So we start with 7 gallons per week. From gallons, if gallons is up top, it's got to go down here to cancel. So from gallons, I can go to quarts. And there's a little thing over here that tells you there's 4 quarts in 1 gallon, if you didn't remember that. So gallons is gone. Weeks is on the bottom, which means weeks has to go up here in order to cancel. And from weeks, I can go to days. There's 7 days in 1 week. And so weeks is gone. So if days is in the bottom, it needs to go up top in order to work, to cancel. And from days, I can go to hours. So there's 24 hours in 1 day. So I now have quart and hour as my only 2 units left, which was what I wanted. So what do I have? In the top, I have 7 times 4. And in the bottom, I have 7 times 24. And my unit is quart per hour. Well, I can reduce, rather than doing that multiplication, 7 will go into 7 one time each. 4 will go into 24 6 times. And so I end up with 1/6 quart per hour. If you did not see that, then you would have ended up with a repeating decimal of 0.16 repeating, so 0.1666666. Okay, to solve our proportions, we're going to cross multiply. So C times 12, so 12C equals 6 times 4. I can see that if I divide both sides by 12, I can do some fraction reducing. So I'm going to do that. 6 will go into 12 2 times, and then 2 will go into 4 2 times. And so I end up with 2. If you didn't see that, you did 6 times 4 is 24, and then 24 divided by 12 is 2. You would get to the same thing. On this one, cross multiplying, 50 times t equals 5 times 23. Again, I can see that when I go to divide, that I'm going to have something that will cancel, because 5 and 50 are both multiples of 5. So 1 and 10, that cancels there. So I end up with t equals 23 divided by 10, which is simply 2.3. When you multiply or divide by 10, you just move the decimal around. On this one, m times 3 would be 3m, and I need to pick that negative up with either the m or the 9. It doesn't matter which one you choose. I'm going to put it with the 9. And so, again, not multiplying through because I see 3 will go into 9 3 times. And so I have m equals 2 times negative 3 or negative 6. On this one, I have 6 times x, which would be 6x. Here I need 8 times that whole thing, so I'm going to need to wrap it in parentheses because it's 8 times the whole numerator. So 6x equals, on the other side, using your distributive property, 8 times x and 8 times negative 5. Subtract 8x. I get negative 2x equals negative 40. That 40 is negative. Divide by negative 2. X equals 20. On this one, I have 12 times 0.5, which is just a half, equals, these two would be 4 times r. So 12 times 0.5, half of 12 is 6. So I get 6r minus 12 equals 4r. Subtract 4r. 2r minus 12 equals 0. Add 12. 2r equals 12. Divide by 2. And you would get r equals 6. On this one, when I do this, I'm going to have 14 times the quantity d minus 2. And then when I do this, I'm going to have 3 times the quantity d plus 9. So using my distributive property, I get 14d minus 28 equals, over here, 3d plus 27. So I'm going to subtract 3d from both sides. So 14d minus 3d is 11d. Minus 28 equals 27. Add 28 to both sides. We get 11d equals 55. And dividing by 11, we are going to get d equals 5, not 55. So d equals 5 is what we end up with there. Number 40, the sum of 3 consecutive integers. Consecutive integers are one right after the other. So they're going to be x, x plus 1, and x plus 2. Now I'm going to answer this question. What is different if the integers are even or odd? If you have consecutive even or odd integers, then you're going to have to separate them by 2, not by 1s. And here, back to number 40, the sum of those, so x plus 1, so there's the first integer, the second integer, and here's the third integer. The sum of the 3 integers is 582. Combining like terms, I have 3 x's, 1 and 2 is 3. Subtract 3. 3x equals 579. I'm going to go up here. Divide by 3. Goes in once. 9 times. 3 times. So x equals 193. So 193, 194, and 195. If you're doing even and odds, make sure that you add 2 each time. So like it would be 193, 195, and 197. Page 193, number 41 has a distance problem. A supertanker left port traveling north at an average speed of 10 knots. And he's traveling north. 2 hours later, a cruise ship leaves the same port heading south. So he's heading south. I do not know the time that the supertanker travels, but I do know that the cruiser leaves 2 hours later. So however much time this guy spends 2 hours less because he left 2 hours later. And it tells me the cruise ship is going at 18 knots. Fill in this by simply multiplying the first two because it's rate times time equals distance. And we'll need to wrap that t minus 2 in parentheses. And it wants to know how long will it be before they are 209 knots away from each other, nautical miles away. So that means their distances, you can see from that graphic, their distances add up to that 209. So we've got 10t plus 18t multiplying through minus 36 equals 209. Add 36. And I'm going to put together the 10t and 18t and get 28t. 5, 4, 2. Okay, so when I divide both sides by 28, I started the division over here. It'll go in 8 times, leaving me with 21. I can see that 21 over 28 will reduce because they're both multiples of 7. And so 21 divided by 7 is 3. 28 divided by 7 is 4. So we get 8.75. You could have gone out on a decimal on this one and gotten the same thing. So that is the time for the super tanker. But the question is, how long does it take the cruise ship to catch up? Well, the cruise ship is 8.75 minus 2. So the cruise ship's time is 6.75 hours. In number 32, and this is on, oops, let me get a page number. This is on page 194, so the chapter test. It says Jan is 1 year younger than her brother Bill and 1 year older than her sister Sue. The sum of the children's ages. So let's start with Bill. We're going to call Bill's age B. Jan is 1 year younger than him. So she's going to be B minus 1. And then Sue's age is the hardest one to do because it says Jan is 1 year younger than her brother Bill and Jan is 1 year older than Sue. So Jan is a year older than Sue. That means Sue is a year younger than Jan. So we take Jan's age and subtract 1 from it, or B minus 2. The sum of their ages, there's Jan, there's Bill, there's Sue, is 57. So 3B minus 3 equals 57. Add 3 to both sides. 3B equals 60. Divide by 3. You get Bill's age is 20. So here's Bill's age, it's 20. To get Jan's age, I need to subtract 1 from that, so that would be 19. So that's Jan's age. And I'll do that up here in a different color. So again, this was 20. This is 20 minus 1, which would be 19, and this would be 20 minus 2, which would be 18. So that's why identifying those variables at the very beginning is very helpful. On square roots, we're going to tell whether it's rational or irrational. Then find the value of each expression. If the expression is irrational, tell between what 2 consecutive integers the root is between. So 86 is irrational. So I need to tell between what 2 consecutive integers it is. So 9 squared is 81, 10 squared is 100. So it's between 9 and 10. 47, square root of 121 is 11, and we're going to make it negative because of that negative right there. So that's a perfect square, so this is rational. Plus or minus the square root of 1/2. Well, the square root of 1 is 1, but the square root of 2 is irrational. So this is irrational. What's it between? It's between 0, which would be 0 squared is 0, and 1. Because 1 squared would be 1. So it's between 0 and 1. 2.55. Let's write this as 255 over 100 under a radical. And 100 is a perfect square, but 255 is not. 225 is. It's 15 squared. So this is irrational. So that was just me trying to figure out if it was rational or irrational. 2.55, the square root of that is going to be between 1 and 2. because 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, and this is between 1 and 4. This one's rational. The square root of 4 is 2, the square root of 25 is 5. And we have that negative sitting right there. 0.36, I'm going to write that as 36 over 100. The square root of 36 is 6, the square root of 100 is 10. So 6 divided by 10 is 0.6. So it's rational. The Pythagorean theorem, we're going to find the missing side to the nearest tenth, and that page number for your table is wrong. It's on page 804 in your textbook. So 3 squared plus 5 squared equals c squared. 9 plus 25 equals c squared. 34 equals c squared. Take the square root of both sides, and so I need to look up the square root of 34. And I looked it up on the table in the back, and to the nearest tenth would be 1 decimal place, so it's going to be 5.8. And then number 10, a squared plus b squared, and this is coming from page 184, which is this actual original section on this. 7 squared equals 10 squared. So here we're missing one of the legs as opposed to the hypotenuse. So we get a squared plus 49 equals 100. Subtract 49 from both sides. We get a squared equals 51. And we take the square root and we go to the table and look up the square root of 51. And so the square root of 51 is 0.1414, and I only need 1 decimal place, so I go to 7.1. On this one, 55 and 56, we have to tell whether or not they are perfect. They are a right triangle, so we're going to take the 2 smaller numbers. Those are the legs. So we do 16 squared plus 30 squared. Does that equal 34 squared? And so you would use the table to look up these unless they were ones within the grouping that I had told you needed to know. So 16 squared is 256, and those groupings are the perfect squares between 1 and 15. 30 squared is 900. Those two add up to 1156, which is 34 squared. So yes, this is a right triangle. 7 squared plus 24 squared equals 25 squared. So we're checking that. So 7 squared is 49, 24 squared is 576, 25 squared is 625. 49 and 576 actually do add up to 625. So this one is also a perfect square or a right triangle. If the numbers don't equal, then it's not a right triangle. And then I added some more because they didn't review enough. Well, they didn't do similar figures. So we're going to do 30 and 18 because they go together. They're in the same position. And then 25 to x. So that's my proportion. I'm then going to cross multiply the 30 times the x. And that's going to equal 18 times 25. I am not going to multiply the 18 times the 25 because I see I can do some reducing here. So write it like that, and let's go through and reduce. 25 is divisible by 5, and so is 30. But 6 will go into 18 3 times. Over here, that cancels. So we end up with x equaling 3 times 5, which is 15. And so that's your solution to that. In this, the man is 6 feet tall, and I want to know my tree there. So 8, this goes with this. 8 goes with 22, as 6 goes with x. And so cross multiplying 8x equals 6 times 22. Again, I'm going to do the division first and see what I can reduce. That will cancel. 8 and 6 are both multiples of 2. So I get 66 over 4. Oh, that's a multiple of 2 as well, 33 over 2, which is going to be, I know that 16 times 2 is 32. So this is 16 and a half is what it goes to. And then on to the next page. A vegetable garden is 6 feet longer than its width. So we're going to call the width W. The garden is 6 feet, or the length is 6 feet longer than that. My original perimeter formula is I take twice the length plus twice the width. So my perimeter is 36. So I'm going to replace this P with 36. And that's going to equal twice the length, but the length is W plus 6. Plus twice the width, which we call W. So we have 2W plus 12 equal, or plus 2W equals 36. Subtract 12. I have 24 equals 2W plus 2W is 4W. Divide by 4. So W equals 6. And if W is equal to 6, then 6 plus 6, which is what the length is, would be 12. So the length is 12 feet. Terry leaves his house riding his bike at 20 kilometers per hour. So this is Terry because we have another person. He's going 20. Susan leaves 6 hours later. So I don't know his time. She is 6 hours later than that. Riding her scooter, and she's Sally, and she's going at 80 kilometers per hour. So again, this right here column fills in by multiplying the 2 columns before that. Now, he leaves his house, and then she leaves the same house. And they want to know, when do they catch up? When does she catch up with him? So their distances are equal. They're not adding up to something this time. So 20t equals 80 times t minus 6. 80t minus 480 equals 20t. Using the distributive property there, subtracting 80t, I get negative 60t equals negative 480. Divide by negative 60. I get t equals 8. Now be careful, because that is Terry's time. How long will it take her? I need Sally's time, so I need 8 minus 6. That's 2. So my answer is 2 hours. His time minus her time. Carrie drives her mother's to her mother's house in 3 hours. So 2 moms. Took her 3 hours, and returns in 4. Her speed was 13 miles per hour slower on the return trip. So we don't know what her rate was there, but we do know this was 13 slower. So 3x, 4 times x minus 13. So 4x minus 12, carry the 152. So subtract 4x from both sides. I get negative x equals negative 52. Divide by negative 1 to get rid of that negative. And we get x equals 52. That is, how fast did she drive each way? So that's one way. X minus 13 would be the other direction, and that would be 39. 52 minus 39. So there's my answers for that one. And then finally, the last one, Sarah drove to the beach at an average speed of 50 miles per hour. Her trip took her a total of 4.5 hours. I am missing something here. Okay, I will add this in here before you get it. Her return trip was at 40 miles per hour. And I'll make it sound neater than that. Um, so on the route back, it was 40 miles per hour. Maybe there was traffic. Her total trip was 4.5 hours. So whatever this was, I need to take 4.5 and subtract that amount of time from it because it was used up in the first position. So 50 times t is 50t. This is going to be 40 times 4.5 minus t. She went and came back the same route, so the distances are equal. So 40 times 4.5, 0, 4 times 5 is 20, carry the 2, 4 times 4 is 16, and 2 is 18. So I end up with 180 minus 40t equals 50t. Add 40t to both sides. 90t equals 180. Divide by 90. The time on the way there was 2 hours. And then 4.5 minus t, which would be the time on the way back, was 2.5 hours. But I asked how long did it take her to get there? 2 hours.